Hi, so we did our project on CAUTI reduction in the hospital. So the Joint Commission's National Patient Safety Goal is to prevent infection. Use proven guidelines to prevent infection of urinary tract infections that are caused by catheters. So some facts about CAUTI and urinary catheters. CAUTI is the most common hospital-acquired infection in adult patients. Studies have shown catheter insertion for inappropriate indications is common in healthcare, and there are alternatives to urinary catheter placement that should also be considered. So indications for indwelling catheters would be from urinary retention or obstruction, critically ill patients who require accurate measurements of urinary output, post-operative patients, and then end-of-life care patients. Alternatives to indwelling catheters would be things such as condom catheters, PureWicks, bedpans, frequent toileting, using a bladder scanner to determine the urine volume, and straight catheterization. Limitations in the project were not implementing revisions to obtain data from the given population.
So like we were saying, Shawnee said, we're looking at the CAUTI policy. This is the CAUTI prevention policy from Adventist Health Ukiah Valley. Looking through the policy, it's pretty solid. It covers a lot of the important aspects as far as how to care for catheters, when to use them, things like that. But there's a couple of things that it was missing. So we'll get back to that in just a second. As far as the research goes, there's a lot of different things that you can really use to help reduce the occurrence of CAUTI. One of the biggest things that you can do is just reduce the use of catheters unnecessarily. A lot of the catheters that we use aren't necessarily needed, or they stay in too long, and the longer a catheter stays in, the more likely it is to get infected. So regular assessment of need for catheter, only using appropriate indications, making sure you're not putting them in for reasons that aren't actually needed, are really important things. Ways to make those kinds of things happen in a hospital, one of the biggest is education. So regular education in the hospital, making sure that your nurses and all the staff that are involved in the patient's care know about the catheter and how to care for it properly to help keep it clean, and also to shorten its length of insertion are really important. So one of the things that we are going to add to this policy was an education aspect. There wasn't anything about education in the policy, so we're adding an addendum to the end with regular education, an online module being implemented through the hospital's regular education platform that can be completed annually, just as a upkeep, make sure everybody has the right information. The other thing that we found that was super useful in helping make sure people properly assessed regularly was a reminder, an electronic reminder that's kind of attached to the EMR. So, you know, every time you have a patient that has a catheter in place, it pops up and says, hey, go make sure you're using this properly. So we're going to try and add that in as well as something that's added to their system. Thank you.
So in regards for the rationale for these changes, as James mentioned earlier, the policy is rather complete and covers many important aspects of preventing CAUTI in the hospital. But as mentioned previously, the two areas that the policy seems to be lacking is education and a reminder. So in regards to education, there are multiple sources available that show regular continuing education regarding urinary catheter use to be one of the best ways to reduce urinary catheter use, unnecessary urinary catheter use. And then also one of the other things to help reduce total catheter days was an electronic reminder attached to patients' electronic medical records to reassess the need for the catheter each day. These two things combined can have a significant impact on the occurrence of CAUTI in the hospital. And then in regards to the next steps for this project, so the next steps in this project is presented at the next quality fair at the Adventist Health Ukiah Valley. There are annual quality fairs held at this facility where projects can be submitted for review by management, and the project will be taken to be reviewed by staff and management of the facility alongside the research that was done. In the event that management decides to accept the proposed change in policy, the educational module needs to be developed or adopted from previously existing materials and provided to staff participation or completion.
And this concludes our project.
All right, thank you.